Right before we jump into this video, if you want to get my free 11 Days to Better Photography mini video course, head on over to froknowsphoto.com/11days to get started right now. Jared Polin, froknowsphoto.com, and I want to help you quickly understand the differences between RAW and JPEG. Now, for those of you who don't know that when you purchase your camera, it's generally set automatically to JPEG. Now, JPEG is considered a compressed file. It's taking all the data that the camera is capturing and then shrinking it down into a smaller compartment known as a JPEG. Now, what is RAW? RAW is an uncompressed file. It's taking all of the data that the camera captures it and saving it right to the memory card with all of the raw data. Now, the two differences are the JPEG is what we call a baked file, meaning once you have the picture, it's very hard to make changes, or it's more difficult to make tweaks after the fact. Whereas the RAW file, you can constantly go back to it, change the exposure, you can change the sharpness, you can change the tones, the white balance. You can do a lot of that with JPEG, but not to the same extremes that you can do it with the RAW file. Now, one of the cons of the RAW file is that you need to edit every single file that you take. Whereas a JPEG, once you take it, it's done. It's over. It's ready to be shared with the world. I personally shoot RAW. That's why my shirt says, I shoot RAW, because I want all of the raw data that my camera captures versus the baked file. Now, this comes in handy if you get your exposures wrong, or you get certain things wrong that you want to tweak after the fact. Having all of that raw data is going to come in much more handy than having a JPEG file that is done. If you get your exposure totally wrong with a JPEG file, it's going to be much harder to bring it back in post-production. So one of the other cons to shooting RAW is that the file is much larger. It's going to chew up more space on your memory cards, whereas a JPEG is compressed and it's much smaller, so you can get more of them onto your cards. Now, when you're first starting out and you're not sure what to shoot, I suggest that if you're just going to shoot JPEG, that you shoot the highest resolution JPEG possible. You can always dumb it down later, you can always make it smaller later, but you can never go up in resolution if you start at a lower resolution. But for those of you who think maybe one day I want to shoot RAW because I want to edit the files and I really want to take advantage of all of this money I spent on a camera that allows me to do this, then I suggest you shoot RAW plus JPEG, and you put the RAW files away for the future for when you start to learn how to edit them. That means you can go back to those files later down the road and make them even better than what the JPEGs were able to get out of the camera. Now, I will say this, JPEGs have come a long way and are really, really good. But I want full control over my pictures. For example, if you set the picture style for every single picture that you take in JPEG, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be locked in. If your sharpness was too high, then it's going to be over sharpened. You can't pull back on that. I look at it like a cake. If you have all of the ingredients to make a cake and you put it in the oven and you burn it, well, the JPEG, you can't go back. The ingredients are gone. But with a RAW file, if you get the exposure wrong and you burnt it, you got it wrong, you could start back because you have the raw ingredients. When I first got my DSLR, my very first one in 2003, I couldn't find any information on should I shoot RAW or should I shoot JPEG, what's better, so I shot both. The great thing is that I can go back to those RAW files from 2003 and edit them right now as if I took it yesterday, because I have control because of the RAW file. Those old JPEGs wouldn't be any good today. So hopefully that gives you a basic understanding of RAW plus JPEG. You're going to hear people tell you that one's better than the other. I personally shoot RAW, like I said before. I highly recommend that you consider doing that, but as that rule of thumb, if you're not sure what to do, shoot both RAW and JPEG. So that's pretty much it. But if you want to unlock the power and the potential of your camera and your ability to capture amazing images, I highly suggest you check out the Froknows Photo Guide to Getting Out of Auto. It's going to quickly and efficiently help you start getting amazing photos that I know you want to capture. So for a free preview, head over to froknowsphoto.com/guide to check it out right now and decide if it's for you. So thank you very much for watching. Jared Polin, froknowsphoto.com. See ya.
Subscribe now. Watch this video.